My best friend doesn't know that his kid is actually mine. 5 harrowing confessions from people who want to admit their wrongdoings. Starting back 4 years ago, my mom left my dad cause he was beating her. She met this new guy on, get this, World of Warcraft. They had a good thing going and eventually arranged a meetup after finding out he lived a city over from us. Fast forward a year and he's now over at our house every day, basically living there. He worked a clean job and made a nice wage but was super pretentious and spiteful. He began to act like he knew me and my sisters like we were his own and started demanding us around. My mom, being the non-confrontational woman she is, turned a blind eye. Day after day he would come back from work and order us to clean the house and bring him everything he needed, snacks, drinks, etc. It went on like this for some time and he kept getting worse and more demanding. My mom works a dead-end job and really needed the financial support from him as well as emotional too. So she acted like he was just perfect. My sisters and I would go to her privately and complain about how he's bossing us around and he's not even our stepdad yet. She showed sorrow and empathy and assured us she would talk to him. Nope. That miserable man only got worse. He would threaten to hit us and lock us in our mudroom in the basement if we didn't do exactly as we told him. On days that our mom wasn't there, she frequently went on 12-hour shifts. He would take our electronics and send us upstairs. My sister tried to argue back one time and he pulled her by her hair to the laundry room. She later told my other sisters and I that he grabbed her and punched her across the head hard. I was infuriated. I'm a big guy but not athletic. I'm around 6'2" and pretty husky, so my stepdad and I are pretty matched when it comes to size. Skill, though? No, he works a pencil-pushing desk job and couldn't connect a punch to a wall. My sister informed me of his assault and I lost it. I called my mom and told her he was beating us and to call the police. I walked downstairs and turned the corner to the dining room and saw him on his laptop. I started yelling at him with tears in my eyes not to touch my sister ever again and that he wasn't my dad. He looked over in disbelief as I never confront him. He got up and turned red. I knew it was go time. He stepped toward me and said something like, "You'll never talk like that to me again, you hear me?" He stepped closer and tried to grab my shirt. I threw the hardest punch I've ever thrown and connected with his nose. He fell back a bit and looked stunned. I was also surprised at myself, so I just stood there for a second. He took that time to lunge at me and he got me to the ground. I don't remember how many times he punched me, but he beat my hands and back of my head up while I was face down, blocking the back of my head. I managed to throw him off me after a bit and he hit his head off the table. He fell on the ground with his legs still on mine and started making a rough snoring sound. I was blacked out. All I remember from there is turning around and socking him in the head multiple times. After 2 minutes of wailing on him head to toe, my 2 sisters ran downstairs and pulled me off him. He was a mess. His forehead was swollen and he had 2 black eyes. He wasn't snoring anymore, so I thought I killed him. I just sat back as my sisters called my mom and told her what was happening. The police started banging on the door and my one sister opened it. They got everyone away from his body and put me in handcuffs. Not much I remember from that point except for being in court with 2 witness statements from my sisters stating it was self-defense. Fast forward now. I'm 17 and I still live with my mom. She was devastated with me and was contemplating putting me in a home right after it all went down. As for my stepdad, he was airlifted to the ER and died 2 times while in the hospital. He regained consciousness 2 weeks after the incident and was a new person. My mom is telling me all this because clearly I can't see him anymore. She said he talks with a lisp now and can't drink correctly. He has trouble moving his arms and legs and just sits in his brother's house all day in a special chair staring at nothing. He talks and apparently gets really excited when my mom visits him, but isn't the same anymore. I don't feel bad at all. He punched my 12-year-old sister and got tenfold what he did to her. My family isn't the same anymore and it seems like every time I come out of my room my family is scared of me. Me and my best friend Tyler have been friends since the 8th grade. He was the first person I came out to as bisexual and the first person I told about my dad hitting me. I even stayed with his family for a while during high school. He joined the army out of high school and I ended up dating and moving in with his older brother while going to college. He met a girl Susie while visiting me and his brother while on leave. They started dating and eventually he proposed. During the time me and his brother were having issues and Susie was always lonely when Tyler was gone and we started an affair. Things started getting better with Tyler's brother and Tyler was leaving the army and coming home for good and we both felt guilty about the affair, so me and Susie decided to end it. We had one last fling about it 2 weeks before Tyler came home. Susie ended up pregnant and deciding not to tell him the truth. She just told Tyler it was his. I went on to marry Tyler's brother while him and Susie got married. They now have 2 other kids together. Tyler still doesn't know that his first son isn't his, and even though he almost looks nothing like Tyler, I've always felt guilty for not claiming my kid and betraying my best friend. Last week my wife and I had a gigantic blow-up argument stemming from issues both out of our control and each of our respective control. This past week has been a lot of deep, meaningful, mentally draining but overall productive conversations. And I just need time off. So tonight I lied and told my wife I picked up an extra shift to make up for the shift I had to call in for during our argument. I am currently sitting in my car in the plaza down the street from us, using free internet from a bank, eating junk food and scrolling the internet. It is blissful. Getting away from the kids and the intensity of this phase of our marriage. I love my wife deeply and feel guilt about this to a certain extent. However, I always tell her she needs to go out alone more and spend time with her sister's friends away from the house to decompress, etc. But she never does due to separation anxiety. From the kids, not me, lol. That's one of the main problems we are working through. But tonight she just needed my own time to be alone and do my own thing. The first girl I officially dated was when I was 16 to 17, rough estimate, back in 2013. We were together for a few months and she was found dead in a dumpster about a year and a half ago. The second individual was a girl that I was pursuing a relationship with, and she went missing out of nowhere along with 2 others. She is part of the article called the Bakersfield 3. The third individual was just after the second, if my memory serves me right. I met this girl as my blow hookup cause I started getting into hard drugs considering everyone is dying around me or going missing. This individual was a great girl with a good spirit and was in a super bad relationship. Long story short, we were talking for a while and her boyfriend was crazy. She left for the army and we stopped contact for a little while, and now they found her also in a dumpster but cut to pieces and strangely mauled. It's absolutely insane and she couldn't believe it. The fourth individual. In 2016 I was talking to a woman from Kingston, Canada when I was stationed in upstate NY. Long story short, we had a friends with benefits thing going on and she overdosed on pills while we were snap video calling each other. Her daughter found her dead the next day and posted it on HeadFB. Is this just a coincidence? I run into things just as crazy on a quarterly basis. Also, my close friends actually think that I have some kind of entity because they get hurt around me and have had many close calls with death around me and have had extremely weird bad luck. Bad enough to where they acknowledge it. Side note, I started a new job back in January, and when I got there one of my coworkers' mothers got extremely sick and died 2 days later, and then my boss's mom died 2 weeks after that. I don't know who to exactly talk to because it sounds insane and it actually does affect my love life, everyday interactions and my mental health. This happened on Friday. I've been drowning my sorrows all weekend, dreading the fact I have to start looking for a new job. Explaining why I got fired from my old job is going to be fun. I'm typing it up here to try and organize my thoughts in my head, because right now, it's all a mess. I had been with the company for 3 months and was still on orientation. My job was sales advertising. As the new guy, I was given existing accounts to manage, which consisted of providing customer service and convincing my clients to spend more money on advertising. All of these accounts already had their ad campaigns done, and if they wanted something new, the account was transferred to a senior account manager who would work with our advertising guys to put something together for the customer. Eventually, I hoped to have that job, but I had to pay my dues by proving I could maintain existing accounts and convince them to spend more money first. Everything was going great, until last week, when we were scheduled to have our quarterly retreat. Since we were the main regional office in the area, all of the employees from the satellite locations came to our office for the retreat. The owner of the company rarely visits our office. He's been overseeing the setup of a new satellite office for the last year, according to my co-workers. But, he was there for the retreat, as was his disabled daughter, Amy. Not her real name, for the sake of privacy. One of my co-workers told me Amy works at one of the satellite offices and I probably wouldn't have much interaction with her, but I should be nice. That seemed like a no-brainer. I'm nice to everyone, regardless. I won't claim to be an expert on Amy's disability, but it seemed like she had childlike mannerisms and struggled with expressing herself. She also had some problem with motor skills. I'll describe the only interaction I had with her prior to the incident. I went to refill my coffee and Amy was in front of me, getting her coffee. I watched her struggle with getting condiments added and putting the lid on, so I politely asked if she needed any help. She thanked me, said she did, and let me finish making it. While I was making it, she said she hated coffee, but her dad made her drink it because she had to, in a loud voice, always alert. I smiled, said that was definitely important, and handed her the cup. She thanked me again and went back to the office her dad was using, where she had been most of the day. I felt like I had been a good Samaritan and went on my way. Most of the retreat is team-building exercises. Prior to the incident, Amy only participated in the puzzle race, where groups put puzzles together without the box art to see which team can finish faster. Amy wasn't in my group, so I didn't have any interaction with her there. Neither of our teams won. The big event, and the one that everyone seemed the most excited for, was the last activity of the day. Our boss gave us a list of potential clients. We were supposed to select 3 as a group, and put together something to attract the customer. We were told we would be judged on our creativity. My group explained that we could do pictures, slogans, jingles, whatever we wanted. Each person expected to work on one individually, then work with their group to polish it up before it was presented to everyone. It was kind of a big deal because at previous retreats, there would be clients on the list the owner was already close to bringing on board, and if you impressed the owner, you might just land that account. I went with the jingle, rhymed a few words, and recorded it. It was silly but fit the brand. My group gave me some pointers, we made some improvements, and I recorded the final product for submission. I helped my team with their projects until it was time to turn everything in. After everything was turned in, we gathered in the big conference room to critique each other. The owner went through them one by one. If it was a picture or storyboard, he'd put it up, read it, and we'd make comments. Good or bad. There were some that were great which drew a lot of compliments, and some that were really bad, which we laughed about as a group. You could tell the senior account managers didn't care much about the exercise or put much effort into their pitches. Nobody seemed to get upset or offended, regardless of the feedback. When my jingle was played, it got a lot of comments, not all of them good, and I took the feedback with a smile. After getting my feedback, I felt a little more comfortable about sharing my thoughts on other presentations. I gave what I thought was valuable feedback to a few products, laughed at a couple others, and then a rather crude drawing was put up for the exact same company I had chosen. I immediately joked that well, at least my jingle was better than that. Did a 3-year-old draw it? And laughed, to absolute silence. I was really confused because plenty of people had made jokes and everyone laughed. Instead, a few people looked at me like I was disgusting and the owner said, well, if you don't have anything nice to say, keep it yourself, maybe? Then my boss scooted down to where I was sitting and told me I needed to go to my desk. Now, I noticed as I was gathering my things that the owner's daughter was red-faced and starting to tear up. The team building exercise was over for me. I went back to my desk and it began to sink in that the drawing must have been drawn by the owner's daughter. There was no warning or anything. The owner didn't reveal who put together what we were looking at until after a few critiques. Maybe I should have known? Everyone was joking and having fun up to that point. Someone else had a pretty bad drawing that got laughed at. Either way, I felt awful. As soon as the event was over, I approached my boss to apologize. He told me to wait for him in his office. Long story short, I was fired. My boss said since I was still on orientation, he had decided I wasn't a good fit for the company, so it was better to let me go now. He didn't outright say I was being fired for making fun of her drawing, but that's literally the only thing that I've ever gotten in trouble for. My work, up until that point, had been praised. I didn't get much time to process it because my boss had already called security, who showed up fairly quickly, and escorted me to my desk to gather my things before escorting me out of the building. An hour later, I got a call from one of my former teammates, who asked if I wanted to join the team for a drink one last time. They needed it after the retreat, and felt bad that they didn't warn me. I wasn't feeling up for it, but I wanted to try and make sense of the whole situation, so I went to the bar. In the back of my mind, I was thinking that since I'm about to start looking for a new job, a few references from former co-workers wouldn't be bad since I definitely won't be getting one from my boss or the owner of the company after everything that happened. The team explained that Amy comes to all of these retreats, and she always does some crude drawing like that. Everyone just sort of knows to say nice things about it, and move on. One of my teammates said that once you've seen one of her drawings, you know what to look for. Well, I didn't, and nobody warned me. I started to get pretty upset that this was a known thing and everyone knew but me, but what could I do? I had already fucked up and it cost me my job. The team also shared more about Amy. Apparently she works at one of the satellite offices but doesn't really do anything. The people in charge of the office try to come up with stuff for her to do because she gets upset when she's bored. The team said the way the people who worked there described it, they were basically her babysitter so she wouldn't bother her dad all day when he spent most of his time there, and after he moved on to establish the new satellite office, he didn't take Amy with him because she liked all the friends she had at that office. They also said that her dad had harassed a few single guys at the office to take her on dates, which seemed pretty damn HR inappropriate. But he does own the company. My team said Amy desperately wants a boyfriend and wants to get married, which she talks about all the time. The consensus seemed to be that there's no way she actually understands how relationships or marriage works, and her dad probably put this idea in her head to begin with. One of my teammates did joke that it wasn't a bad deal, because whoever married her would inherit the company since she is the old man's only kid. I wasn't really in the mood for jokes at that point after losing my job over one, so I told them I needed to go. The only good thing is my former team members did say they would gladly give me a reference if I needed it, since they felt so bad about not telling me about the Amy situation to begin with. Oh, and the cherry on top? Amy sent me a Facebook friend request over the weekend. I haven't accepted it. I already upset her and it cost me my job. Part of me wants to accept it, apologize, and block her, but I'm not sure I'm ready for that either. I'm going to take a few days to get myself together and then get my resume out there. Well, that's all for the videos guys. I hope you learned something and enjoyed it. Have an amazing day.